morning, everybody. Welcome to the Moving Markets Podcast. It is Wednesday, August 20th, 2025. The U.S. stock market is open and has been trading now for just about 30 minutes. There was not, granted, it's only been 30 minutes. There wasn't a horrible start to today's market, but there has been a steady fall off in everything. So let me switch screens here really quickly. I know most of you that tune into this presentation, you know this and you see this going on. You're probably watching the markets at the same time as I am. So the Dow Jones started out 50, 60 points to the upside. The NASDAQ started out kind of flat. The S&P kind of flat. And you can see for a second or third day in a row, the NASDAQ is really, really struggling, really taking a hit. The big name tech companies, Meta, Microsoft, Nvidia, Palantir, AMD, they're just getting pummeled this last week, these last few days especially. You look at the chart on any one of these. We'll just kind of go in order. AMD, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth day in a row of downward trading. You look at Nvidia. Only the second day of down, but yesterday was a big day, and today so far is a big day. Palantir getting hammered, just getting crushed. Got up to $190 a share, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the sixth day in a row, and really, really testing, really pushing up against some strong support here at 145. But I don't know that 145 will hold. It's hard to look at that and say, oh yeah, that's going to hold up. That's going to be no problem. That's going to, it's broken through with technical indicators to the downside, but who knows? Palantir is still an incredibly, in some people's minds, overvalued stock. It's still forward PE ratio of 202. I mean, that we were talking about 260, 270 being overvalued. It's still at 202. When you compare that to Nvidia, Microsoft, Meta, they have a forward PE ratio of between 20 and 30, maybe into the low 30s. So at 201, this is still an incredibly high forward PE ratio, and I know that has at least a little bit to do with it. Maybe not everything, but at least a little bit to do with it. So you've got these tech stocks. These big tech stocks are just getting pummeled, and I think at least some of it is the fear that the Fed is not going to do anything when they meet, even though that meeting is still almost a month away. I think people are just really worried that the Fed is going to sit on their hands and go through another rate cut meeting or another adjustment meeting without doing anything. So and it's a legitimate fear. It's something to be concerned about. These tech companies, they make a lot of money, but they also borrow a lot of money. They do a lot of things with debt, and they finance a lot of things. And it's got to be at a minimum concerning for them that interest rates are probably going to stay elevated and not come down. So that's a large part of what you see going on. And then they're worried about what the Fed is going to say. They're worried. I mentioned this yesterday, so I won't harp on this a lot today, but they're worried about what Jerome Powell might say in his comments. And, Jeff is saying Thinkorswim desktop shows Palantir has a 498 PE. Yeah, so this PE, that's interesting, because what I show right here on the CNBC website, this is actually very consistent. Well, okay, there's a 493. I think that's current PE, and this is forward PE. And forward PE is that's what the difference is. So that 498 has come down a little bit to 492, and this of course has dropped from, this was 275 a couple of days ago, and so it's dropped to 200 or 199, whatever it is. But current PE versus forward PE is what we're talking about. Either one, huge, massive, absolutely massive. Those are gargantuan PEs. Look at those two numbers right there, 492 and 199, and just compare them. Here's a giant mega cap stock what most maybe highest valued company or one of the highest valued companies, and there's your current PE of 55 and your forward PE of 34, and that 34 is actually, that's a little bit higher than I thought it was. I thought it was maybe just at 30. So yeah, these are just incredible. These are just absolutely incredible that Palantir has that big a PE ratio. So some of with Palantir, some of it is the same picture that's taking everything else down. That's what part of it is. And part of it is the fact that Palantir is so incredibly overvalued. Even with that said, I heard more than one person today say that on any kind of a pullback, they would jump into more Palantir. They're not soured on Palantir, and on any pullback, they would actually jump into more. This is just one of the analysts that I heard on Fox Business News this morning. But look, I don't know that this. I think I would be kind of foolish to try and predict that this sell-off is not going to continue and is not going to get worse, because I don't know that it can't get worse. This in one way, this could be a somewhat needed correction for the NASDAQ. It's possible that the NASDAQ, if you've got a technical crossover now on the RSI, you've got a technical crossover on the MACD, you're really, really close on the 5 and 20-day moving average and right at a pretty key level of support. That 2100 number has, some visual support there, as well as you've got to look at beyond the visual support level there. There's a little bit of psychological support that sometimes takes place at these big round even numbers. I'm going to look at a couple more. I'm going to add 2 more exponential moving averages to this chart real quick, and we're going to look at the 50 and the 100-day real quickly here. Or excuse me, 50 and 200 day. No one looks at the 100-day moving average. Some people probably do, but let's do that. And yeah, look, a pullback to the 50-day moving average is only a little bit below what sort of the next visual support level is at 2750. I wouldn't be surprised if it came back to that, and I wouldn't even be surprised if there was a pullback to 19750. I guess what I'm saying ultimately is we can't be stunned by this pullback. This is a very, very robust climb from those April lows. This is up to new all-time highs on the 3 major indexes. So you can't be shocked. You can't be in complete and total disbelief that the markets are having this kind of a move right now. And I have beat up on him a lot in my last several podcasts. I've beat up on Jerome Powell a lot. I'm not going to suggest that this is Jerome Powell's fault, that the market's pulling back like this are his fault. You can't blame Jerome Powell for and maybe not entirely, for the PPI numbers that came in last week, that really, I believe, are the primary reason people are so spooked. I think it's those PPI numbers just really threw a massive, massive wrench into this market. I think it freaked people out that you had CPI numbers last week that were kind of in line and kind of okay, and then PPI numbers that were not just high, they were way high. They were a big, giant miss. And that just absolutely unequivocally freaked people out. And you can't be overly surprised, and you can't blame 100% of that on Jay Powell, but I would tell you that it's at least partially his fault, because I think he has been way, way, way behind the mark, and I think he's a liar, and I think he's a political guy, and that's and that's my opinion. I know it's a strong opinion, but that's where I'm at with the guy, and I think that's where we're at right now overall with what we've got going on now. What matters more than any of what I've just said is, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? So I sent out an adjustment for Palantir. That one was kind of an easy one. We just took the November 190 strike, rolled it down to November 175. That just picked us up an extra $3 and some change on credit and sort of eases the pain. I'm not worried about Palantir long term. I honestly believe this company is doing everything right. And I think Palantir, in spite of this big pullback, I think they do find some support, probably somewhere between where they're at. Maybe in a worst case scenario, Palantir comes down here to even the 120 mark. I don't think that's a horrible thing. I think it would be a great spot to add to Palantir. It doesn't look good temporarily for our trade, but I think adding to Palantir is going to be almost a no-brainer when the time comes and when the timing is right. What I'm very, very concerned about right now is our Meta trade, and partially concerned with our Netflix trade. Meta, for a third day in a row, is dropping more than $15 a share. And literally just at the close on Friday, I mean, we closed at Friday clear up here at 780 and some change. And I really didn't think we would see a pullback to 750. And now all of a sudden, we're only a little bit above 730. And here's my concern with Meta. We have a technical crossover on the RSI. We have it on the MACD. We don't have it yet on the 5 and 20-day moving average, although we're incredibly close. And I don't know that even before the day is over, Meta couldn't be back up. I really don't. I'm nervous about adjusting this, because if we take a 750 short call and we roll it down to like a 740, 740 is only $7 away from where Meta is trading right now. Meta could get back half of what it's given. That wouldn't even be half of what it's given up today. Meta could get that back in a couple of ticks of the clock. It could be back, and then suddenly we've taken what already looks like a bad situation and possibly made it worse. I'm leaning a little bit more because I do think, in spite of the pressure it's under right now, I think Meta is right there testing a pretty strong level of support. You've got the support with the visual support on where the stock has traded, as well as it's just above that 50-day EMA. I think Meta could bounce, and I think I would even go so far as to say I think it's likely. I think it's a little bit more likely than not that Meta actually bounces in the next day or two. So I'm nervous about adjusting it from a bull call into a bear call, but we've only got a few days to trade, and that's what makes me even more nervous. Netflix started the day moving to the upside a little bit. Netflix has traded higher, and then it's traded lower. And now Netflix is just not able to overcome what the rest of the market is doing. It's actually dipped just a little bit below 1,200. And that sucks, because at the open of trading, Netflix actually moved up a little bit, and the trade looked really, really profitable. And now all of a sudden, Netflix is down below that 1,200 mark. Netflix would be a little bit easier to just roll it out 1 week, to just basically roll it straight out, because we could do that for a small debit and therefore make it to where it's still a profitable trade. I'm willing. Netflix is just barely below the 1,200 mark. I'm willing to wait just a little bit on Netflix. And on Meta, I'm honestly willing to wait, not until the end of the trading day, but I'm not going to do something right now. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that these markets could not turn and move a little bit up. The NASDAQ is almost down as much, it's probably down as much right now as what it finished down yesterday. Look, it's hard to watch. I'm not going to lie. It's hard to watch the markets sell off like this. But we've got to be a little bit patient without being overly patient. If we're overly patient, we could see a bad situation become much worse. If we're not a little bit patient, we could see it's a tough spot to be in. This Meta and Netflix trade. I told someone yesterday, had I known Netflix was going to drop $30 a share on the morning we opened that trade, I would have never in a billion years would I have ever put on that Netflix trade. I honestly did not see this come. And right now, Netflix is back over 1,200 and is already bouncing a little bit. Meta is bouncing a little bit off its session low as well. So I'm going to sit tight on these two, possibly with Meta do something before the day is over. Netflix, maybe we end up not having to do anything. Triple play trades. We made an adjustment to AMD. I want everyone to understand that as a first-time adjustment. We are going to continue to adjust AMD. We're almost at a total loss on that, but I think we can get back a third or a half of that or more. And Microsoft is probably going to get an adjustment today as well. Microsoft has now completely crossed over. Again, it's kind of close to this. It's sort of pushing through right now, this level of support at 510, but we have to adjust Microsoft as well. That will come in the next few minutes of trading. The adjustments we made previously with DoorDash are looking really, really good right now. We're still going to take a loss on DoorDash, but it's going to be much, much, much less of a loss because DoorDash has finally picked the direction instead of the wobbling back and forth. That was the hardest thing with DoorDash in those first few days after its earnings. The hard thing with DoorDash was this wobble back and forth. It had the huge day up on its earnings, then a couple of days of sell-off, then a decent day up, a couple of days of sell-off, 2 days to the upside. And finally, it's tailing down enough that we can actually manage the trade somewhat. All right, so that's where we find ourselves. On Palo Alto Network, for those of you that are in it, they're still trading up a little bit today, not as much as they were earlier, but enough that we're still kind of in safe territory on Palo Alto Networks. And then Nvidia, I wanted to get out of Nvidia before they report their earnings. I might change my tune and turn Nvidia into a synthetic collar trade. I haven't decided yet, but I'll decide before the end of the day. As you're able to peek at your emails, watch your emails and watch your Discord as much as you're able to today, because there probably will be adjustments happening during the day as we are trading. But for right now, for the next, after I finish recording this, and for those of you that are on live, sit tight. I'm probably not doing anything for another 20 or 30 minutes to kind of see where things continue to go. All right. I'm going to wrap it right there. Hang in there, everyone. I know things look ugly on a number of trades, but we adjust and we manage the trades as best as we're able to, and that's what the plan is moving forward. So hang tight, hang in there, and we'll get some adjustments out throughout the day. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.